It's so wonderful to see so many familiar faces. I see you, so know that I'm appreciative that you're here. But most importantly, I see Marjorie's beautiful mother and father in the audience, and it's such a treat to have them here supporting her. So that is so fun. I love seeing an artist family in the mix. What a treat to introduce my friend Marjorie, who I've known for many years and always am blown away by her work and her person. And I think you're in for a real treat tonight because, as I said in my Facebook post, she's a singular artist. There's no one like her. She really works as an individual, and she drives her own ship. You know, no one else. She's not following rules. She's just Marjorie. So she was named one of Lens Culture's top 50 emerging artists. And the wonderful Virginia Heckart, who is the curator of the Getty Museum, said that Marjorie's images reveal a fine line between sanity and insanity. And we all know that's so true. Her exhibitions include, and it's a long list, so I'm going to speak fast, making pictures of people at the Nelson Atkins Museum, Nuat de Images at the Musée de l'Orsay, solo exhibits at the Griffin Museum, at Ralph Pucci in Los Angeles, in New York and Miami, JDC Fine Art in San Diego, Clark O'Sheen Gallery in Los Angeles, Month of Photography, Los Angeles, and other exhibits include Magdalena International in New Orleans, the Verge Photographers through the Duncan Miller Gallery, Raconte Arles in Arles, France, Fuck Pretty at the Robert Berman Gallery, Rayco Photo Center, Julia Dean Gallery, and the Human Being Show at the Center of Fine Art Photography in Fort Collins, Colorado. Her work was also included in the George Eastman House Museum auction at Sotheby's, New York, PDN's Emerging Photographers, Black and White Magazine, UK, and she was the runner-up for the 2009 and 2010 Berenice Abbott Prize for Emerging Photographers and a finalist for Critical Mass. Her book, Her, Meditations on Being Female, I hope you all buy it, was published in May 2016 by Glitterati Incorporated. And Marjorie's greatest achievement, why I love her, is that she is a wife and mother of two spectacular children, and she makes her home in Los Angeles, California. And I am so thrilled to introduce Marjorie Salvaterra.
Hi, everyone. I see everybody waving. We have my sister here too. So thank you guys so much for coming. I'm so thrilled to speak for LACP. I discovered it before it was LACP, when it was just Julia Dean. I had been a writer at the time and discovered photography. I'm going to start my presentation and I'll just sort of talk through it if that's good. And feel free to ask questions at any time. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm not the most technical. I have to share the screen. I will start. So it was September 2002. I was terrified. My husband, we had just gotten married about 6 months beforehand, and my husband was going to Morocco to do work for 3 months and living in the Sahara. And I was terrified to go. I went to therapy and the therapist said, "What's the worst that could happen?" And I said, "I could die." And she said, "Well, guess what? If you don't go, you're not really living anyway." So I went, and she said, "If it's my time, by God, if that plane isn't coming through the window to get me." So then I went. So I go to Morocco, And I brought this little point and shoot camera that we had gotten for our wedding just for fun. And while my husband was working, I would go around shooting. He was working on a film production, and the photographer on the set was an older photographer, had been a photographer all his life. And I showed him some of the things that I shot that I thought I discovered in Morocco. And he said to me, "You have a good eye." He said, "Why don't you come on set tomorrow and I'm going to teach you how to use a real camera?" So thank God his name is Richard, and Richard showed me what a big camera is, and told my husband later about Julia Dean. And when I got back to Los Angeles, my husband got me a class for Christmas or for something. It must have been for the holidays, and I took my first class, and it was a black and white class, and we all had real cameras. I remember one person had a digital camera, and we thought they must be so rich. Um, and anyway, then one day Julia Dean called me and she said, "I'm having a class, and if you," she said, "I really think you should come to this toy camera class, and it's being taught by this amazing woman. You'll love her, Aline Smithson." And so I went for the day, and because I lived around the corner, I ran over, and it has changed my life. So this was one of the very first pictures I ever took. Um, and one of the things that I love about her, it says, "I am what I am." And she's probably 10 years old, but her eyes look 100. I went around the country just shooting, and to me, like, everything was so new and beautiful. I just couldn't stop shooting. There was just, I had never seen any of these things before. Hold on. So then we come back to the United States, and you're in your own home. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take this class, but I don't know what to shoot because I've seen all this before. And I remember Julia saying, "Well, you have to see with new eyes." And I remember we were selling our house at the time, and our real estate agent, who was a friend, walked out, and it was raining and her makeup was running. And I said, "Stand right here. Don't move. I'm going to photograph you." And I said, "And if you want to sell our house, you'll let me do your picture." So I started a series called Hallelujah, and I'll play it for you. My friend Matt Scannell from Vertical Horizon did the music, and it's a beautiful version, I think. And I will show you my very first series. Oh, wait, I did that wrong.
I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do you? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, and the major lift. The baffled king composing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Well, your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, her beauty and the moonlight overthrew you. She tied you to her kitchen chair, she broke your throne and she cut your hair, and from your lips she drew the hallelujah, hallelujah, how to shoot somebody who outdrew you. It's not a cry that you hear at night. It's not somebody who's seen the light. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
So I finished that. I worked with all people I knew. And I thought to myself, okay, now what do I shoot? And I loved that Julia had been an apprentice for Bernice Abbott, who had told her, and she passed on to us, is always have a project that you're excited about. Always be working on a project. So what gets you out of bed in the morning? What do you get excited about? And I wasn't sure. So I signed up for yet another class. So this was probably my fourth class that I did like a one black and white, two black and white. And I took a class called the long-term project. And we came up with an overall idea on the first night. And somebody said, contrast LA. So to me, what that could be anything. And the first image I had in my head was how different people are in LA. You know, they always say people are this way in LA. So I decided to do a piece called Bus Stop LA. And I didn't know who would show up naked. And I think this is the last time I shot on film, and it cost me so much money that I switched to digital after this. But I just started finding people. One was our nanny at the time. And as I was shooting her, I did these all individually. As I was shooting her in the front yard, there was a gate. A pizza man walked in and he's like, pizza? And she's standing there naked. And I said, next time you should check the job description before you accept a nanny job. And some were friends. One was a friend who was 42 weeks pregnant and she was about to go to the hospital and stopped. I stopped at her house before she left for the hospital to get induced. I wanted the perfect LA body. I found a woman coming out of a yoga class and I said, I'm looking for the perfect LA body. I said, but it's naked. And she pulls out her necklace and it was a Playboy bunny necklace. So she was perfect. And I did this piece 12 feet long. And I just found this amazing community of people at LACP because the night before the show, my piece was so heavy, we could not get it up on the wall. So everybody in the class is running around trying to find a handyman. And we finally found, a girl found a drunk handyman in her building and he came over and I think he was a little shocked by the picture, but he did get it up. So I say the most important lessons are offer a robe. Didn't realize that when you're asking people to get naked, lock your gate and ask about the job before applying. So I finished that and I take yet another class because I loved just the community at LACP and I'd be taking classes all the time if I could. And I was living in Venice at the time, but Venice started changing. It started going from this hippie neighborhood to very fancy. And I was changing at the time because I had become a mother and my body starting to change and things about me were starting to change. So I did a piece about old Venice and how we get away with the old. This to me was, I don't even think I ever finished this series. I did enough for the class, but I never really, I think I didn't understand what it was about until much later, about holding on to a piece of something, and that was including myself. This was a wonderful friend of a friend named Hilda. She was 94, and we just walked around Venice shooting. And we went into a tattoo store, and the guy's like, "Yeah, you can take one picture," but we kept shooting. And he was like, "Ladies, come on, I'm trying to run a business." And she said to him, "Oh, be quiet. If you're lucky, I'll let you, if you're nice, I'll let you tattoo a butterfly on my ass." So I love a good 94-year-old. This is my therapist who thanked me for the experience of modeling at 80. And one of the things I always think about is I have friends who photograph every day. They go out and shoot something. I do not do that. I really wait for ideas to come before I shoot. Um, and one of the things that I had talked to her about this day is living your life so you have art to make. And I always tell that to my kids is whatever we go through, let that be a part of the work you make, because then your work is totally different from anyone else's. I, of course, didn't know what I was going to do after Old Venice. And one day I was sitting in a theater with my friend and her daughter and my daughter, little, they were little, and we're watching a show. And we had been going through some like bigger family events. It was a tougher time in our life, and I was a new mom at a fancy private school that I didn't think I really fit in. And I remember leaning over to my friend and saying, "I have this idea for a picture of these women standing in water, and the idea of one drop of water would throw it all off." So I called a bunch of friends and asked them to show up at the ocean at 6 a.m. and wear a wig and get in the water in February. And thank God 12 or 13 friends actually did it, not even questioning me. And from that, um, I created my series, Her. And I was actually in a long-term project class with Aline at the time. And I remember people thinking, these are a little different. These are strange. And I felt like, oh, I don't, like I'm doing this based on my life and what I'm going through. But I don't know. The art doesn't really, I think people think it's silly. And Aline and I came up to Aline with tears in my eyes at the end of the class. Aline, do you remember this?
No.
You know, I came up to you at the end of class and I said, "I don't think I should be doing this project in class. It's just sort of what is happening in my life and I'm putting it into pictures." And you said, "Oh, you're not allowed to quit. You are doing exactly what you need to be doing and you must continue on this project." And I will present to you guys my little video of Her.
I went up to the mountain because you asked me to. Up over the clouds to where the sky was blue. I could see all around me, everywhere. I could see all around me, everywhere. Sometimes I I've never been nothing but tired. And I'll be working till the day I expire. Sometimes I lay down. No more can I do. Then I go on again. Because you asked me to. Some days I look down, afraid I will fall. And though the sun shines, I see nothing. And I hear your sweet voice. Oh, come and then go. Come and then go. Telling me softly, you love me so. The peaceful valley, just over the mountain.
So I want to say those are all friends of mine or friends of friends. And I think I learned the greatest lesson of my life doing that series, because I was feeling very alone in the world, and like I couldn't share things, and I didn't really have people in Los Angeles that I could talk to, that I felt, everybody has their own life. And I could not believe how many people showed up, friends, when I asked to come for no other reason but then to like play dress up. And one of the greatest things was at the end of every shoot, I would see everybody exchanging numbers, and it created like just a bigger and bigger network. So it's one of the things I love about LACP is the community and doing photography, being able to do photography. And I digress. So a few little, we have funny moments that happen throughout. My friend's dad had this giant backyard and he let us use it, but we were driving over in separate cars. We all got ready at my house. So as he is driving to his house to let us in, he sees all these crazy women driving, and he pulls up, he's like, what is happening? And he pulls up to his house and all these women pull up to his house, and he thought he won the lottery. This is a shot. My husband is hardly ever in my pictures. He is a behind the scenes kind of person. But we were in Palm Springs I had an exhibition, and I had the idea in my head for this picture, and I saw this restaurant on the side of the road, and I said to him, quick, pull over. And of course I happened to have costumes and wigs in the back of my car. I could play Let's Make a Deal out of my car. And my friend throws on a dress and a wig, and I say to my husband, please just go sit there. And he said, as long as I get to have dinner afterwards, I'll go do it. So we go up to the restaurant and I say, oh, it's their anniversary. Could we take a picture really quickly? And so I say, quick, throw your head, quick, do. I tell him what to do. We snap the picture and we run out of the restaurant. So all the pictures I shoot very quickly when I shoot. I don't shoot often enough. This was a February, the coldest day. These girls, and I believe Sarah Hadley is one of these girls. These girls stayed in the water for so long, and I kept yelling, again, throw the umbrellas again. When they got out, their skin was blue. So those are good friends. I had always wanted to do a story my mother's on, but of my mother's generation, because I noticed with my mother and her mother's generation and my mother-in-law, and that it was a time when women were taught to keep everything inside and to make it look like everything's perfect. And of course, we know how not, that is not something we can do long term. And I created Sheila with red hair based on that. I have yet another little video. And the reason I have all these videos is I love going to the Palm Springs Photo Festival for many years. And they have a slideshow presentation where the winners get shown at the museum, at the Palm Springs Art Museum. And it's such a fun night, like watching photos mixed with music. So here's my Sheila with red hair video. Slideshow.
I want to be happy, but I won't be happy till I make you happy too. Life's really worth living when you are worth giving. Why can't I give some to you? When the skies are gray and you say you are blue, I'll send the sun smiling through. Yes, I want to be happy, but I won't be happy till I make you happy too. Happy too. Happy too. I won't be happy till I make you happy too. Life's really worth living. Why can't I give some to you? Now, when the skies are gray and you say you are blue, I'll send the sun smiling through. I want to be happy, but I won't be happy till I make you happy too.
So the picture with all the pills falling, I had that idea and I called my friend Richard, who's a photographer, and I said to him, I had this idea, but how do I shoot the pills? And he said, you need to light it correctly. And I was like, I have no idea how to do that. I am not a technical shooter. It took me 10 years to take my camera off manual. Off automatic onto manual. Anyway, Richard shows up and he brings his friend Ralph. They're both older and have done photography. Ralph he's since passed away, but was an expert lighter. So he lit it perfectly. And I had Richard and Ralph up on ladders with pool skimmers, shaking the pills down. I didn't even think about the fact that I could do it on Photoshop. So we just sat there, shook pills, then we would scoop them all up and start again. And it's actually reminding me of an early series I did when I was doing my portraits, where I wanted to create bodies and mix bodies and heads. It was very strange. But Aline, I was sitting there cutting and pasting everything, and she said, there's something called Photoshop that you could use. So some of the really crazy fun stories. Well, first of all, I did not know. This is just, I rarely pay for, I think I paid for to use a location for the first time. We usually run in and just grab the picture and run out. But as we were running into this little market in the valley, my friend who was a little bit older was in a wig, and her son happened to be walking out at that exact moment. And he just looks over and keeps walking. He's like, "Hey, mom." So, and there's a famous Audrey Hepburn shoot that was done in this little market by my house. And I told you the story of the pills, shaking them. And I put this in because it's Aleen's bathroom. One of the greatest things about LACP is we have this amazing community of people and friends. And I can call my photographer friends and say, "Will you put on a crazy bathing suit?" And they do. And I need a great bathroom. And Aleen says, "Come on over. I'm working. Let yourself in and help yourself." So it's just fantastic. As we were shooting this at my friend's house, also a photographer, right outside the window are the gardeners. We're like, "Get away, you birds." My next series was Ice. I think this is sort of an unfinished series in my life. Um, I I always take from my own life, because I realized when I start making work from my life and what I'm going through, it will be unique to me. Um, and I always think like teenagers, instead of just going around shooting a trash can, one of the things that I always think in classes when people are young is they have so much that they worry about. I have two teenagers. It's a great idea for work. So Ice, I was dealing with some crazy mothers at our school. And instead of killing them, I decided to make art. Um, I will tell you, originally in my head, as I had this picture, everybody had scissors to the next person's back. Um, and so I tried to make it into a more universal photo. Um, the little one was my daughter when she was younger, when she was about 8 or 9. Um, and the series became about boundaries. And as women, it is not something that comes naturally to us. I think it comes much more naturally to men, but for women, it's a learned behavior and something I think it's really important to pass on. It's about learning to, when something's uncomfortable, to say, "Ow, that doesn't feel good." And that was what this work was all based on. Um, After I shot this, I thought about Sisyphus. I had the idea first and then went back to the book. And I loved one of the lines in the book. It said, "What if the journey's the thing?" And I think we're also used to, I think it's a great analogy to photography because there is no finish line. If you really want to do this as a goal. So definitely the journey is the thing. This is called Up. That is my friend. There's no Photoshop. That is, was a dancer. So she actually took flight. And then I was at the Palm Springs Photo Festival. You sign up to meet different people in the industry. And sometimes you get the people you pick, and sometimes you don't. And I got a book publisher. I had never thought about doing a book with my work because I always thought books were more documentary. But I sat down with her. I took out one picture, and she said, "I'm making this book. I love it." And I was like, "Oh, thank you. Um, I don't really have the money for a book." And she said, "We take care of everything. Don't worry." Uh, what I came to learn is, a series will have 10 to 30 pictures, 10 to 25 pictures. Well, uh, she said, "You do have about 80 pictures." And I was like, "Yes." In my Her series, oh, I had maybe 30. Um, So, but I said yes because that's how I do things. I say yes and worry about it afterwards. Um, and so I had to shoot like a maniac. I also went back through all the other shoots and found pictures. I'm quick to edit my photos. I automatically see the one I want, um, and use that one. And then you go back and you look. And so I came up with, I think, 76 photos, shockingly. Um, we ran to a field that was near my house. Um, there was an open gate. We took the opportunity to use the beautiful field, and a man locked us in and said, it basically held us for ransom. If anybody knows Tammy Bahat, I gave her my camera because the gate was still open. I said, can you please leave and take my camera? Um, anyway, uh, I told him that I would pay because he wasn't going to let my friend Charles, who was carrying all the big props, out. Um, and then we called a friend who was a policeman. And um, it's funny, I'm going to digress. Every year I have group brunch with a group of photographers, and these men have been having breakfast together for 40 years. I've only been there the last 5 years. And every year they have a topic, and we go around the table, and these guys are great rock photographers and news photographers, and they have the greatest stories about like the scariest thing that's ever happened to you. And one guy was locked in North Korea, and they took away his credentials. And I said, I was locked in a field in Encino with a group of women, with a group of housewives. So they loved that story. I shot and shot and shot to get all the pictures. These models, I think, were 18 at the time. I have up to 94. I have down to, uh, you'll see my friend's baby. She was 2 at the time. But I think I have other down to 6 months. I take anyone who will model for me, who will come and be a part. This is a fellow photographer who showed up to my photo shoot that day. And she said to me when she got there, I forgot to tell you I'm bald. Oh, my dog's making an appearance. Um, and I looked at her and I said, is everything okay? And she said, I'm going through chemo. It's fine. And I was so overwhelmed that through chemo, she showed up at my silly shoot to pose at 8 o'clock in the morning when she had just had treatment the day before. And all night I couldn't stop thinking of her. And I had this image in my head, and I called her the next day and I said, I still can't get over that you actually showed up. Are you crazy for doing that? And she said, I wanted to do something fun. And I will say we have the best time doing these. And she showed up and we shot this, and it's called To Her and Her and Her. So my biggest issue in life is not my biggest issue in life. I have many issues, but one in photography is living in creative uncertainty and how to know what to shoot when you're finished with a project. Hold on, I'm letting my dog out. Hold on. Go, go, go. I knew she wouldn't make it through the whole thing. Anyway, so I tried many different things. Some work, most don't, I would say. I had an idea. I did some pictures for my dad's 80th called The Richards that are on your screen of the men. Men are much harder to wrangle than women, I find. So I only shot 3 pictures and moved on. And then I thought I would do a series called Plan B. And the funny thing is, I had to reshoot everything I shot because I couldn't translate. So I got a couple pictures and I was like, it doesn't get me out of bed. I tried another series that were going to be lenticulars, might go back to it. But again, I had that feeling. And as I was shooting all these things, I think more what hit me was the community of friends and all the therapy I had paid for in my life, and all the great lessons that people share with me when they're on these shoots and I share with them. And my next series became Dear Marjorie, because I saw this quote and it said, "You are not, oh, if you're not happy where you are, move. You're not a tree." And immediately I had the idea for the picture in my head and created this series. Um, I don't know if all of them work. I don't know, but it was, I'll play it for you and you can let me know afterwards what you think. So with that, I always try to think, what can I do that will be fun for me? And, like I try to, well, Aline said I don't follow the rules. Um, my dad would probably say because I didn't read the manual. Um, right? I remember one time I had a broken watch and I was like, Dad, I need a new watch. And he's like, change the battery, Marjorie. So I sometimes don't live on this planet. Um, but yes, it's photography. I don't think of myself as a technical photographer. Um, we don't have to stay within the boundaries of anything because it's art. So I'm always trying to I guess live my life. Like this past year during the pandemic, I did not leave and I could not be around people, so I didn't have anything to shoot. Um, I tried shooting a chair. It was a picture of a chair, and it didn't do anything for me. For me, I find myself to be more of a storyteller than than a photographer. Um, Photography and art happens to my medium, and I really think like just live and you will have things to shoot. Live in the world. Don't worry about like having to do anything. Like find your excitement. I'll give you I just because we had a pretty rough year during the pandemic, um, I started to I didn't have to push ideas. They started to come. And I'll give you a tiny sneak peek of two pictures that I've done recently. One is called The Other Shoe. And I just made a print for my mom's birthday with the shoe all bedazzled, the fallen shoe. And here's one other that I just finished. Um, and so just to finish this up, the main things that I learned through LACP were always have a project that you're excited about that gets you out of bed. Another thing was watch your backgrounds when you're shooting. You have to see your background because it's an integral part of the picture and you don't want a tree coming out of somebody's head. Um, One of the biggest things that Julia Dean taught me when we were in class, I remember there was a man shooting cars. And one of the things we would talk about in this class is everybody these days has a camera on them. Everybody's a photographer. Everybody's posting their photographs. How do you make a photograph versus a snapshot? And Julia said to him, I don't care if you have to stand on your head to make your pictures different. You have to see it differently than everybody else with a camera. And he started like getting in on little pieces of the car, and they were beautiful. And whether you are laying on the bed shooting up, or if you're standing in a tree looking down, you have to really think like, how am I going to get the photo that nobody else is getting? And last but not least is shoot every frame as if you're shooting on film. We used to have to be so careful when I first started shooting because it was like $10 by the time you got everything done per frame. Um, and instead of shooting and hoping you're going to get it, if you really take the time to wait for moments, I think that's one of the greatest things that I have learned through the classes that I've taken there. So that is my presentation, and that's it. You can ask me anything, personal or not personal.
Wow, that was fantastic. And I mean, for me, it was so fun to kind of go back through your legacy, having known you from the beginning, and to see all these faces underneath these wigs and try to figure out who is who. I mean, that's really an amazing part. I hope you will put some questions in the chat and I will feed them to Marjorie. And Marjorie, I had a list of questions for you, but a lot of them you answered. But starting with that first project, Hallelujah.
Yes.
I was really struck by how vulnerable your subjects were. And I don't know, I mean, with all your work, I don't know if I would allow myself to be that vulnerable. And what is it in you as a director and photographer that cajoles or encourages people to get in front of your lens and just remove all artifice?
Well, maybe because on a good day I'm 5'2". I don't know. I have good friends. I think we have such a great time. And I remember a friend of mine, she is a big Hollywood writer. And I said to her, please let me, she has a new company. I said, please let me do a shoot for you for your products because you've done so much for me. And she said, oh no, trust me, I get much more out of it than you do. And I was like, wow. I think I mean, I have to think people do it because we have a great time. And we go for coffee after. I used to say to my daughter, do you want to go to school today or do you want to be in mommy's photo shoot? And now I have a coffee, a 14-year-old coffee addict on my hand. But I like it's always women, and we get right into the nitty-gritty of people's issues. Um, I just had one friend drive 6 hours out to the desert with me and 6 hours back. I threw up the entire way home because we went to an area that was below sea level. And it made me so sick. And then she was like, tell me when the next shoot is. I was like, after driving with me for 6 hours, throwing up like everything, you still want to shoot? She's like, yes. So I think that's has to be it, or that's what it is for me.
Well, you definitely bring a celebratory enthusiasm to your work. And, the other thing I was really struck by looking at everything is I know that all your work is guerrilla style, that you have collected these wigs, you've collected these dresses, they're all stuck in the back of your car. You drive people to a location where you do not have permission and you shoot quickly to make it happen. And it's pretty remarkable. I mean, in looking at the breadth of your work, that it's all done like on the fly, like though you have conceived it well in
I think
advance.
that's where all my time is spent, in my head. By the time we get to the photo shoot, I know what I'm doing. So I think the hardest part for me is coming up with ideas, waiting
Yeah.
for pictures.
Well, so let's talk about a little bit of your inspirations, because I know Fellini and Italian cinema and those kinds of things are definitely
I
things
think,
that you
yeah,
like.
more of the theater. I grew up going to the theater. Our family went every Friday night to see shows during the summer that came to St. Louis. Um, and I think if I could sing, um, I think my best friend from kindergarten is on here, and she's a Broadway singer. And for some reason, my closest friends are all these amazing performer singers. I do not sing, uh, but I think in my car I do. Um, and I love the theatrics of theater.
Yeah, I was just going to use that word, that your work is theatrical. You're a little theatrical.
I'm a little theatrical.
And it's magic, truly. And so let me see. I'd love to hear, and I'm going to answer some of the questions from the audience, but I would love to hear how the subjects feel, not the models, but the people in your photographs. Are they really surprised to see the outcome of the work?
Well, I think it's one of your favorites. Oh, the one that's behind me.
Yeah.
So I had a friend. She was a mom at my kids' school, and our kids had gone to preschool together. And she's no longer a Republican, but she was at the time, and very proper. And it was just part of her upbringing. And I adore her. And I said to her, I need people so badly. You won't be recognized. I just need your tush. And she was like, oh God, no, 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 no. And then later I get a call from her. If you really desperately need me, I will do it. But if you ever tell anybody it's me, I will never speak to you again. I said, I swear. And then when this was up at a gallery, I see her at the opening having her photo taken underneath like this. Her daughter's taking her picture and she was pointing at her own tush. And I said, you outed yourself. So it's such a weird thing that I do, and that friends who do not do anything close to this, come and play dress up and acting, for an hour of their day, and they're going to be, it takes, there's no pressure. You can't do anything wrong. And I think in our world where we're so crazy and doing and being, and to have maybe like to have this thing that's so weird and bizarre and silly and sort of like we're 8 years old, um, is maybe why people do it.
Yeah. So one of the questions from the crowd is you're from Tama, and it's the work is so filmic. You are very much a director. Does this have any connection to the fact that your husband is in the movie biz?
Probably, well, maybe. I think always, I mean, I used to stay up late. I was never a great sleeper. My mom wasn't a great sleeper, and they loved old movies, and we would stay up watching old movies. Um, and I don't know why Ma and Pa Kettle just came, but the other Mrs. Miniver, we just loved watching these old movies. Um, I'm sure I'm influenced by the living in a very theatrical world. I would have loved to like sing and dance on Broadway. It was not the gift I was given. But I don't even know the question. So I don't know. So maybe.
Well, you came to, we just talked
Yeah.
about this before. You came to Los Angeles to maybe be an actress or be in theater, and so I actually,
And I wrote stories after that,
I love your husband, but I think this is all about you.
Thank you. I love my husband too.
So
he
the
loves telling
lovely
stories.
Sonia Nauman, is that correct pronunciation? Wrote, what strikes me the most about your images is they read like a symphony of your personal essence. Somehow, regardless of how staged they are, they have an organic nature to them. I think it's because they're imperfect. That's my thought. The only way that seems plausible is the energy you bring to the moment. Clearly, they're acting for you, but also not so clearly, they're in an existential expression of you, and maybe you are acting also. It moves me more than most images I see. Could you speak to the importance of energy and intention in your photo shoots?
Yes. Well, thank you. I'm sort of overwhelmed. I think the way my brain works, or what I tried to do, is take the ballet photo that came from a really personal experience, for our family this past year. And I go, how do I take something that wasn't so pretty and make it, I know what it is for me, but for somebody looking, they can have their own interpretation. So I think maybe the fact that I tried to take like really specific experiences and turn them into the pieces. And usually, my friends who are photographing, I direct them as far as like, here's what I'm going through. I mean, here's what I'm going for. How do you make that your own, you know? So people are pretty darn vulnerable in these situations.
A big, or one way of talking about shooting portraiture is the word performative. The sitter is performing for you, but in fact, you are performing for the sitter, because the sitter is literally mirroring who you are. And I've always thought that all photography is a form of self-portraiture.
Yeah.
So is there a shoot that you wish you were in besides the one at the table with your husband?
Oh,
Or that you feel most represents yourself?
well, definitely this one, because I'm not the most together human being. I keep my like bag attached to me. If I put things down, I lose them. I'm always saying, "Where's my phone? Where are my keys?" I try to keep. I try just not to lose my kids, like, and everything comes after that. If I can get everybody to bed alive and fairly happy, I've done my job. Um, I think this one because I just got a haircut today. He put a little too much goo in it for my taste, but um, the idea of presenting, and really it's always for me. Now I'm going to tell you too much about this picture, but for me, like, okay, I got that done, I got that done, I got this person ready, I got this done for this person. I know I'm forgetting something. So that probably got my nice shoes, got my hair done, and I know I'm forgetting something else.
Yeah. So Sandy just asked, "Such joyous work, Marjorie, really wonderful, but it seems like there's a kind of 15 faces of Marjorie aspect to it that feels like it's about different identities of women or you or both. Is that something you're after?"
No, I don't know what I'm after. I do this as my art and my expression, so I don't think I'm ever after something specific. Um, I I take from my life. I try to, as I said, like live my life. I have a full life of being a mother, being a wife, being a daughter, um, being around my friends. I love spending time with my friends. Um, and I love my pets. I love, so I think it's just we all live our lives and you take from your life. I don't know. Like, I remember my son once asked the question um, when I was giving a talk, "Are you going to do a hymn series?" I don't think I can speak to him. um, I don't think that I know what it's like to be a teenage boy, a 50-year-old man who has the pressure to provide for his family. Um, and, they always say women feel good to do good, men do good to feel good. So I just don't, I think I can only take from my experience. If I was a street photographer, I'd still be looking for things that are meaningful to me, moments that are meaningful to me in taking photos.
So one thing Marjorie didn't share with us, but you can find it on her Instagram, I believe, is that for the Emmys, she created the most incredible gown out of her photographs. And it takes some nerve to go to an event like that with that dress. So of course, I want to hear the reception to that dress, but then I want to lead into the fact that your new work, you're actually adding to the surface of a photograph with elements like butterflies and flowers. And maybe you can talk about that evolution, but let's not forget the dress part. I want to hear the reaction to that dress.
Well, when we go to the Emmys, I usually meet my husband at the party afterwards. So I stand in a line full of, you know, not the main people, but people really seem to love it. I saw Miss J, if anybody watches America's Next Top Model, and I told them that I designed it. And he really couldn't have cared less. So I think the one thing I've learned in going to these events is that nobody cares what I'm wearing, no matter what I wear. A lot of the young, like, a lot of people came up to me and was like, oh my God, I love that. But I think for the most part, nobody cares what 52-year-old Marjorie is wearing to the Emmys, except for Marjorie.
And me.
And you.
Okay, so let's talk about your new work and the addition of other elements to the photograph.
Well, the butterflies, again, think I see in pictures. My ears don't always work. I'm not a great hearing. So I'm much more visual. And so when I pictured the butterflies, I thought, do they sell? I know butterflies only last like a few days in life. I think they have like under a 2-week lifespan. And so I looked to see if people collect them, and yes, they do. Most of them come from Europe, or like, I had a bunch of bugs show up. My husband worked on Chernobyl for HBO, and from Belarus the day that Chernobyl opened, and they smelled like Chernobyl. But for the most part, I don't know. I just, however I see it, I make it. The bedazzling the jewels I put on the shoe, I just thought that would be a fun element. And because I've been in my house for a year, I was trying to come up with things that take a long time. I should have started that much younger eyes, because it's really hard to see that small. So I don't know. I just try to play. I remember, I won't even name this gallerist because he turned out to be a not nice human being, but he said, why would somebody want to have that on their wall about one of my early pictures? And I actually do think about that sometimes after I make it. Like, I know which ones will be the better sellers. And I mean, that's their job to come up with that. I just have to make the things that I see.
I think you should have said, well, because there's no accounting for taste.
Right.
So we're going to finish with Yvette's question. And she says, your work has a Leonora Carrington feel to it for me, in that I never can figure out how you come up with your productions. It's also special. So you meet at 6 or 8 a.m. and how long to wrap it up? Just curious about your process.
I am fast. I think partly because everybody's doing it for free, and I try to give back to my friends if they need kid pictures, any kind of pictures, doing that in response. And I think the longest process for me is creating the photos in my head and then buying everything I need for them. By the time we get to the shoot, I can know exactly where everybody goes. It's all like, I never write anything down, which is why I almost missed this talk tonight. I am not, my husband tells me what days to be where. But I think it's just a quick process because I know by then. And then I try to spend a few extra minutes making sure I have it and maybe playing around a little bit to see what else we get. But for the most part, I know once I'm going there.
Yeah, I think we work in a very similar way, where it's all done beforehand as we go to bed at night, thinking in our mind. That's the joy. That's the best part for me, is the conception of it.
Really? That's the best part for you?
Yeah. And then I'm so happy when it's all over. But
oh, see, and my favorite part is the shooting, like when we all get together.
Yeah.
It's like a party. Yeah.
So I just have to say that Tama is mortified that you might have thought that, that, she was speaking that your husband might have influenced.
Oh, God,
Or-
no. I know.
But we know.
I want to say, like, he and I do very similar jobs in two different worlds. And that's probably how we connect. That's probably, he is very much a storyteller. He's an English major in college. He loves to tell stories. He does it through film. I do it through pictures. So it's so similar, although he has to deal with a lot of people and I only deal with my friends. But I'm sure that's,
I am mortified.
oh God,
You are so unique, and I had previously written how brilliant your work is. So I
but you
just
know
made
what?
it.
He does influence me because he takes me to a lot of films that I wouldn't see
Yeah,
that
yeah.
inspire me.
Yes, and the work is so cinematic. And you're around the movie biz, so that's all I was saying. So
Well,
thank you.
and I
Thanks,
used to write film, before I did this, I wrote in that world. So it's sort of all the same thing. So you're right. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You're totally right. Please don't be mortified.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'm just going to end that Marjorie and I have also a special relationship because we both love serial killer podcasts and we are forever texting each other the latest serial killer podcast that we have to listen to. So I love having a friend who is,
We're crime junkies.
yeah, exactly. So Marjorie, thank you for this incredible
Thank you.
evening. I mean, so inspirational to all of us. And you're just
Thank you,
such an
everybody, for coming
authentic,
so much.
honest, glorious image maker. And we're just so lucky to have you in LA and be part of our community. And we love you and can't wait to see what you're going to do next.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody who took the time to be here. Thank you. I love you.